You know what's really not fun is the pain, suffering, and death of this earth. We're surrounded by it. We live in it. In 92, I went to the Ukraine with a team of college students. And we went there because the Soviet Union had dissolved and all the countries were independent. And I was invited or pushed my way onto a team to just go and serve and help. And one of our team members went back, and she never left. She got married, and she lives in the Ukraine. And so with everything that's happened, I've gotten updates from her on what's happening and the pain and the suffering and the death. If there's anyone that wants to hear about heaven, it's the people she's working with. It's her and her own family. They had to live in a car in the winter, trying to avoid checkpoints. Hadn't taken showers for a while. There's a lot of pain and suffering, and a lot of their friends, and a lot of people they know either have died or are going to be near death. But I want to give us a reminder that God himself gave us. That this pain and suffering that we're experiencing is temporary. Because we talked over the past few weeks about heaven for Lent, getting ready for Resurrection Sunday. And we talked about many of the things that are going to be in heaven. But there's something that's not going to be in heaven. And what won't be there is pain and suffering and death. Revelations 21, we read pieces of it, but you miss it because you're focusing on something else. But in Revelations 21, in verse 3, it starts and says that God shall personally be with them, us, and he will be our God. And it says, God will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be anguish, sorrow, mourning, grief, or pain anymore. For the old conditions and the former order of things have passed away. And he who was seated on the throne said, See, I make all things new. What grabbed me from that I'd never noticed before is that it said that God himself will wipe away our tears. Have you ever had somebody touch your face? It's very intimate. It's very close. It's very personal. You don't just walk up to a stranger. And when you have tears of pain or suffering or death, you want to be comforted. And God himself will wipe away these tears that we experience now. In another place, in Revelation, John is told by God that the Lamb in the midst of the throne will be their shepherd, and he will guide them to springs of living water, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Really trying to get the point across. There's an intimacy there. God's presence takes away all of that pain. We won't experience that pain there. I don't know how that works, but we won't experience it there. There was a man in 1989. He was a minister, and he was heading to this conference. They asked him to come and teach, and there were other people coming to the conference. And he's driving over this bridge, and it's one of those tight, closed bridges. And he's almost to the other side. And Don Piper said that a semi came and clipped him. Well, I wouldn't call it a clip. I mean, he died, but he got hit head on. And he died instantly. People showed up. Paramedics showed up. 4 different paramedics claimed him to be dead. 90 minutes later, a man that was also going to the conference saw this huge backup, and the Lord was so clear to him. He goes, you need to go up to that car. There's somebody I need you to pray for. So he went up and he started praying for him. And everyone's like, what are you doing? And they just thought he was crazy. So he starts praying, and then he didn't know how to pray, so he starts just singing an old hymn. And as he's singing that hymn, this is 90 minutes after the accident. 90 minutes after he's been proclaimed dead. The broken man in the driver's seat, Don Piper, starts singing with him. So he runs out and tells everybody, this guy's alive, this guy's alive. And they all think he's crazy for obvious reasons. And so he went to heaven, and he describes it beautifully in 90 minutes in heaven. But what he said here is what reminds me of what it's going to be like, what won't be in heaven. And the picture of God himself wiping away our tears, being so close. He said, as I try to explain this, my words seem weak and hardly adequate, because I have to use earthly terms to refer to unimaginable joy, excitement, warmth, and total happiness. The first person he said he saw when he got there, because he said, you do see people. You see people, friends and family that have gone before. And the first person he saw was his grandfather, and he knew him right away. And all these things that were broken down and beat up in his grandfather before he passed away were like gone. His fingers all worked. He was just, there was no pain or suffering. And they embraced, and his grandfather said, you're home. These things aren't allowed at home. And we need to be reminded of that, because here there is pain and suffering, but it's temporary. One last thing I was told, a man said it a long time ago, so I'm paraphrasing, I'm rephrasing the way he said it. But he said that when someone is dying, but they haven't yet gone, we say, when they're still here in the land of the living. But more accurately, we should say, they're yet in the land of the dying. But we hope soon that they will be in the land of the living, because that is home, and that's where we're truly alive. And there is heaven here on earth. There is the kingdom of heaven. There are pictures of it, but this is not our home. Remember that. Remember that when you're suffering. May God bless you. And if you are around, there's so much more to say. We always make these so short on purpose because of the format, being on YouTube or on the website. But join us this Sunday as we take this and go much deeper, and we do it together. And you can get all that information at branchesoc.com.